rap is just one aspect of it, right? I mean, think about it. Some of the very best stand-up comedians, some of the very best musicians.
Jazz, dude.
Yeah, and you think of the percentage of the population that's black.
12%.
The percentage that become elite professional athletes. I mean, what is the percentage of NBA players that are black? It's something crazy.
A lot of it's also just...
What is it, you think?
I don't know, but it's pretty high. I mean,
69%?
Probably something like that.
I don't know why I said that number. Jamie,
a lot of it might be just also that there are two avenues open to you in a lot of black communities. At least it's changing, but it was sports and music, right?
Yeah, for sure. That probably plays a part in it, no doubt about it. But it's also, there's an extraordinary number of professional athletes, like elite athletes, that just happen to be black. And what is that, though? Is it genetic? Is it the environment they're coming from? I mean, it's a fascinating thing to be explored, because for all this talk of racism, if you just want to be really honest, there's a lot of African Americans that have some pretty phenomenal genetic traits, like Carl. Like, think of who's Jamie? Who's the biggest freak all-time athlete basketball player would it be?
Probably LeBron James.
LeBron James, probably, right? Yeah. And then you have Michael Jordan is another freak athlete, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many of those
Vince
white
Carter,
guys, how many
Vince
white
Carter.
guys are like that?
It's tough because people would argue Larry Bird, but
Larry Bird was a phenomenal shooter, but he wasn't the kind of freak athlete LeBron is,
or Dr.
Jordan.
J,
when Jordan used to literally fly through the air.
There are a couple guys that can do things like that, but they don't have the overall skill package or whatever.
Well, so if you look at, there's a book called The Sports Gene that talks about this.
Yeah,
and if you look at Africa, it's probably the most genetically diverse part of the world, right? I mean, the Africans from the Biafra coast are totally different than the Africans from say, the highlands of Kenya or Ethiopia. The Africans from the Sudan, the Dinka and the Nua, tend to be almost 7'6" sometimes. Certainly 7 feet is not that uncommon.
And many people don't realize Egypt's a part of Africa.
Very much so. I mean, the Tunisia, Morocco, that's more Arabic, right? But then you've got, I mean, it's fascinating. This is what really was fascinating. Let's go to Ethiopia. Ethiopia, they grow to an average height, beautiful people. There's a lot of trade in that side of the world. Eritrea, they've been renowned for their beauty. If you just step over the border, just go right to just one south or one north, you are going into Sudan or the South Sudan. Tallest people in the world. I mean, some of them can be like a fist off at 8 feet. That's where Manute Bol and those people came from, okay? If you go just another country, just one more country east, now you're in the Congo, and that's home to the pygmy. So you got the shortest people in the world in one country, and then just cross the border and you have the tallest in the world in that country. So Africa is insanely diverse. But if you look at the athletes with the most explosive power, and if you like that includes the fastest people in the world who are in Jamaica and who are, in the United States, genetically, you can trace them back to primarily you can trace them back to a very small part of Africa, according to this book, The Sports Gene, which is the Biafra coast. And so that's where you'll see the fastest, most explosive people. However, having said that, you can hear Deion Sanders watching this white running back, 215 pounds. He ran a 4.35 40. And he was like, I can't say this on TV, but he can run. He can run. And it was true. It's like you haven't seen a white guy run a 4.35 in forever.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
There's
got to be some Viking genes floating around.
Sure, but I don't think there's any black cornerbacks in the NFL. Can you see any white cornerbacks?
It's just fascinating when you stop and think about just the sheer number of people involved in professional athletics. The sheer number of people that make a living playing a game with their body.
Yeah, but I don't know if that kind of athleticism helps you become a champion in tennis. Depends on the sport. It's sport specific, right?
Well, I mean, first of all, black people historically have not been into tennis.
Because they didn't have money. It's a rich man's sport.
Arthur Ashe was obviously a
Venus
tennis
Williams,
champion.
Serena Williams.
Yeah, but Arthur Ashe was way before their time, right? So he was the groundbreaker. But now I'm sure a lot of kids are growing up in nice communities. They have tennis clubs, stuff like that, African-American kids. But it's less a thing of that culture than a thing like there's not a lot of Italian-American tennis players either. You know what I'm saying? My people don't play tennis. They They don't get into tennis. It's not an economic thing. It's just a cultural thing.
Golf is the same way.
Yeah, so when you see all these like world-class tennis players that just happen to be of the, rich upper
Well,
crust.
you need a coach. You need a lot of stuff with tennis,
Yeah. It's a lot going on in tennis.
Yeah.
Plus, nobody gives a shit until you're really good. Like if you're kind of like, if you have a chance, he plays semi-pro ball
Right.
for, maybe he'll get into the big leagues. But you don't, if you're like, I'm a semi-pro tennis player, get a fucking job, bitch.
Right.
What are you doing? You playing tennis?
It takes a long time.
I used to know this dude who was a professional racquetball player, and that was the grindiest of all grinds. Because when I was 19, I recognized, like, oh no, this dude done painted himself into a corner. He's like a world champion. It's something nobody gives a fuck
I know,
about.
nobody cares.
Dude, nobody cared. And people would, like, treat him like, oh, poor guy. Like, that was part of it. It was like, he's awesome, but poor guy. But
I feel that way when I watch the biathlon and the
yeah.
Olympics and shit, or curling, or any of those sports.
Well, curling is, don't talk shit about curling in Newfoundland. If you go up there in Canada, they get fucking angry at you.
I don't give a fuck.
They get mad.
Also, I don't care that you replayed the curling move in slow motion. I didn't miss it in regular motion. There's just certain sports I think they're skills, they're not sports.
Like, how do racists deal with the fact that there's so many elite black athletes? What is how does a racist look at it, and how do you see white superiority in that many elite
I know how
athletes?
I've heard guys in New York, white guys would always say this about I'd hear white dudes in New York talk about black and white athletes like this. They'd be like, well, he's a brother, so obviously he's going to be faster and stronger. But this kid over here has got heart and he's got smarts. And so the white guy apparently got heart, he had brain, whereas the black guy only has muscle. It was a clear indication that it was such a racist kind of way of delineating,
Well, it's also delusional because people want to assume that because someone has physical attributes, they don't have mental attributes. Exactly. They always want to say that. And sometimes it's true because sometimes when you have physical attributes, life is easier for you and you get soft.
Yeah.
You don't have to work as hard.
Yeah.
Like one of the more impressive guys in the UFC for me has always been Frankie Edgar because that guy's just a product of hard work. He's never been a knockout puncher. He's not the biggest guy. He's always been small for whatever division he's in. And he's small at 55 and he's pretty small at 45 in comparison to some guys like Ortega we fought this weekend.
Right.
Brian's much bigger than him, taller, longer. He's just all heart and will and toughness, and I love that, and I think that's an admirable thing, and I think you can get a lot out of watching a guy like that. But it doesn't mean that a guy can't have that mindset and also have some fucking Ray Lewis body.
Well, Michael Jordan was the example of that.
Yeah.
Nobody, and Kobe Bryant was the same way.
Nobody works harder. That's why they love to win. In an almost psychotic way.
Yeah, extreme winners are that way.
Yeah, that whole thing, that extreme winners, is why we're here, folks. It's why it's so compelling. I mean, you had to have some ungodly resolve to get through the Mongol era and the fucking caveman era, and think about all the different shit that's happened in between it. Just think about the people that colonized this country. We're so far removed from people